Mr. President, nearly every month this year, I've come to the Senate floor to do something that one of our former colleagues, Ted Kaufman, who served as our senator for 2 years in Delaware after Joe Biden became vice president. Ted used to come to the floor not on a monthly basis, but even more frequently than that, to talk about work that was being done by any number of federal employees across our country, to draw attention to the fact that these are not nameless, faceless bureaucrats. These are people who do important work for us. They serve us in a variety of ways. And what I've sought to do in the last several months, in fact, most of this year, is to come to the floor to recognize the work not of the federal employees writ large, but of the work of a few of the many exemplary Department of Homeland Security employees, and to thank them for their dedication to their mission and their service to our nation, which is an important one. In June, I spoke, and the reason I was particularly interested in this is I'm the senior Democrat on Homeland Security in the last couple of years, along with Tom Coburn of Oklahoma. The two of us were privileged to lead the committee. In June, I spoke about several outstanding officers in the U.S. Coast Guard, one of them a petty officer, a woman named Jocelyn Greenwell, who's stationed at Coast Guard Station, Indian River Inlet in southern Delaware, just a little bit north of Bethany Beach, a little bit south of Rehoboth. In July, I had the opportunity to actually visit Petty Officer Greenwell and 30 of her colleagues there, and to learn more about how she and her unit serve and how they protect the rest of us. Now, it's not just Delawareans that seek recreation, fish, boat, swim in the inland bays in Delaware or in the Atlantic Ocean. It's people from all over the country, actually all over the world, and for that we're grateful. But the devotion of Petty Officer Greenwell and her colleagues to their mission is shared by thousands of men and women serving with the U.S. Coast Guard and throughout the Department of Homeland Security. The U.S. Coast Guard used to be part of Treasury, as I recall, but today it's, since the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, it is part of DHS. Well, today I want to take just a few minutes to recognize the service of and say thanks to two other exemplary public servants who work at the Department of Homeland Security, not in the Coast Guard, but in this case in the Science and Technology Directorate. While many at the Department of Homeland Security put their lives on the line along our borders, at our ports of entry and at our airports, or in response to disasters, some are working behind the scenes to secure our homeland against new threats or better respond to those that we face today. This is what happens every day at the Science and Technology Directorate. They give their all to provide frontline personnel the best tools and tactics that are available. Essentially, the role of the department's science and technology employees is to keep our Homeland Security efforts a step ahead of the ever-evolving threats that we face as a nation. They do this through state-of-the-art research and development initiatives performed by some of our nation's top engineers, top scientists, top researchers. The product of their work is deployed across the department, from cybersecurity to biological defense to border security. Science and technology's research, development, and science work is truly vital to all of us. Science and technology employees work closely with the trade and travel industry and with many academic groups as well. They also work closely with other research and scientific agencies across all levels of government to meet the needs of first responders, to enhance strategy and analysis, and to bolster operations and capability. Among the threats that science and technology seeks to address are the threats to our agricultural system. Agriculture is, of course, vital to our nation's economic stability and our security. In Delaware, agriculture remains one of the key industries at the heart of the state's economic activity. I think of Delaware as a three- or four-legged stool. At least our economy sits on a three- or four-legged stool. One of the strong legs in southern Delaware especially is agriculture. We are in Sussex County, Delaware. We produce more chickens than any county in America. In Sussex County, Delaware, we only have 3 counties. The biggest, Sussex County, is the 3rd largest county in America, but they produce more chickens in Sussex County than any county in America. We raise more soybean in Sussex County, Delaware, and we feed it to the chickens, along with corn and other things. But biological and man-made threats to our food, whether it's poultry, avian influenza, and so forth, but whether man-made threats to our food or animal agriculture system could have devastating impacts to our economy, and to our day-to-day lives. It certainly pose a great threat to Delmarva Peninsula and other places where we raise poultry, and turkeys for that matter. That's why the Department of Homeland Security has a number of employees at Science and Technology whose mission is to prevent and protect against threats to our agricultural infrastructure. In July, I held a hearing alongside my colleague in Homeland Security, Government Affairs Committee Chairman Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. We held the hearing to examine the threat that avian influenza poses to public health and also to our poultry industry. In recent months, parts of the poultry industry across our country have been grappling with a devastating outbreak of avian influenza. And although the spread of this disease has slowed, most of the areas that were affected were in the central part of our country, including Wisconsin, including Iowa. Many states have lost millions of chickens and turkeys to this disease. The economic losses for our farmers in those parts of the country and businesses are dealing with as a result really are staggering. Mr. President, you probably don't know this. Well, maybe you do. But there are roughly 300 chickens for every person in Delaware, as I said. And I mentioned we raise more chickens in Sussex County than any county in America, but our poultry farmers create more than, ready for this, $2.7 billion in state economic activity each year and account for about 70% of our state's agricultural exports. You know, we have cattle that we milk, you know, we have dairy cattle, we have pigs, we raise a lot of other, you know, lima beans and that kind of thing. But poultry is the 800-pound gorilla in the room in our economy. But luckily for our poultry farmers on the Delmarva Peninsula and across the country, public servants like Dr. Michelle Colby are working at the Department of Homeland Security on cutting-edge research to protect against potential disease outbreaks like the avian influenza, the avian flu. Here she is right now, Dr. Michelle Colby. And just talk a little bit about Michelle, if I could. She is the branch chief of agricultural defense at the Science and Technology Directorate. Her mission is to develop tools, including vaccines and diagnostics, to prevent livestock from natural and man-made disease threats. Michelle works closely with the Department of Agriculture to help develop and support the research projects, track their progress, and stay ahead of existing and emerging threats. She also has the critically important responsibility of making sure that research and development programs across our federal government are well coordinated, not duplicative, and always ready to respond to disease outbreak. A primary part of this woman's job is to make sure that science and technology, where she works within DHS, uses the lessons learned from previous disease outbreaks to inform research and prevent or better control future outbreaks. In fact, information gathered during the last few years as part of another project at Science and Technology is currently being used by Michelle's team to help the Department of Agriculture in its response to the avian influenza outbreak that I just mentioned. Michelle and her team were also instrumental in helping combat another recent threat to our nation's agriculture industry and to us, foot and mouth disease. I think it was in May of 2012. They secured a conditional license to a Department of Homeland Security foot and mouth disease vaccine for use in cattle. And this was the first foot and mouth disease vaccine ever licensed in the United States, ever licensed in the U.S. Conditional license was renewed in May of last year and is now valid through, I think, May of next year. Michelle and her team's important work didn't go unnoticed. They were finalists for the Partnership for Public Service to America Medal for their efforts. According to her colleagues, Michelle is, and this is a quote, Michelle is one of the most respected scientists in the area of veterinary science. That's a quote. Colleagues tell me that she never loses sight of her critical mission and that she is a dedicated public servant of the highest integrity. Michelle earned her Bachelor of Science degree in Animal Science from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. That's on the Delmarva Peninsula. And she is our neighbor, just to the south of us. And she also has a Doctorate of Veterinary Medicine from Virginia, Maryland Regional College of Veterinary Medicine. She also has a Master's of Science in Epidemiology from the University of Maryland, College Park. And interesting enough, her graduate work focused on the Delmarva poultry industry. While some of the important work at, let me just say, Michelle, thank you for what you do. not just for Delmarva, not just for those that are involved in the poultry industry, but thank you for what you do for our country and all of us who, frankly, enjoy eating poultry, and for all of us that are involved in exporting and selling poultry around the world. It used to be that 1 out of every 100 chickens we raised in America, we exported. Then it was 5 out of 100, 10 out of 100. Now it's 20 out of 100. And we're negotiating a new Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership Agreement with 11 other countries that will encompass about 40% of the world's markets. And we want to make sure on Delmarva, and frankly in a lot of other places around this country, that we can use this trade agreement to sell that which we're really good at, and that is raising chickens. While some of the important work at science and technology happens in the lab, some scientists and engineers there team up with other agencies within the Department of Homeland Security to get a first-hand look at how to enhance capabilities and operations on the front lines. For Jonathan Mcatee, known as John, John's science and technology work has taken him into the field of joint missions with the Coast Guard, with Customs and Border Protection, and with Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Public service is nothing new to John. In fact, it runs in his family. John was born on a U.S. Air Force base, not in Dover, Delaware, but in the United Kingdom of all places, in a place called Lakenheath, United Kingdom. Proud son of a retired Air Force linguist and the grandson of a 50-year-old GE chemical engineer and World War II veteran. He continues his family's history of service to our country today through his work ensuring the security and economic prosperity of the United States in his role at science and technology. Since 2007, the last 7 or 8 years, John has worked at the Borders and Maritime Security Division at Science and Technology within the Department of Homeland Security's, it's called Security Advanced Research Project Agency. And this component is responsible for the research, for the development, for the testing and evaluation needs for the department's land borders, ports of entry, and maritime mission environments. Since becoming the division's deputy director in 2011, John has managed several projects, developing maritime, developing border and cargo security initiatives. He's responsible for managing the congressional, financial, and technical oversight of operations, along with its 30 employees. On any given day, John is juggling 40 projects on a wide range of activities all across the department. According to his colleagues, John believes that technology is the key to remaining competitive and relevant in an ever-changing global environment. So it's no surprise that he helped establish a Technology Innovation Center within the Coast Guard to help deliver technical capabilities to the department's operators in a faster, more efficient process. John also helps in the efforts to build a more cohesive and unified Department of Homeland Security. They have a saying over there, one DHS, and he's part of that. He regularly represents science and technology on department-level projects to help improve coordination and make the best use of science resources. Efforts like John's are supporting Secretary Jay Johnson's Unity of Effort initiative, an effort to help the department operate more efficiently and effectively. So that's something I think we can all get behind. Colleagues say of John, they say, John looks at solutions to problems not only from a security aspect, but also while thinking about how they impact the overall economic interest of our country. He believes all solutions must have a positive return on investment over existing methods and practices. John is well known for his let's find a way attitude and always encourages his colleagues to be a part of the solution rather than add to the problem. I like to say, no means find another way. That work ethic that he embodies and his leadership can be credited for his work building partnerships to promote our nation's economic growth. Specifically, he helped facilitate a partnership that included Customs and Border Protection, Mexican and Canadian Customs, General Motors, the Ford Motor Company, Honda Manufacturing, Pacific Union, and Ferromex Rail to successfully conduct a cargo security technology demonstration that operates 4 U.S.-bound supply chain routes originating from Mexico and originating from Canada. That achievement earned him wide praise, including the Department of Homeland Security and Technology Undersecretary Award in 2014. John earned his master's in business administration from Salisbury University and master's and a Bachelor of Science degree in finance from Frostburg State University. He and his wife, Heather, an Air Force veteran, have 3 children, Sage, Myra, and Jack. And I just want to say to Sage, Myra, and Jack, thank you for sharing not just your mom, but your dad as well with the people of our country. Thank you. The efforts of Michelle and John provide just a glimpse into the important work being done by hundreds of thousands of individuals across the Department of Homeland Security every single day. These men and women are dedicated. They are exemplary public servants. They are unsung heroes who walk among us every day. And more often than not, their good work goes unnoticed, but not today. These are not nameless, faceless bureaucrats. These are people with great educations, a great desire to serve our country, and who every day make a difference for us in this country with the work that they do. So Michelle, for John, right here. John, thank you. For Michelle, whose picture was up here just a moment ago, we want to thank you for what you do. We want to thank as well the 200,000 men and women you work with at the Department of Homeland Security. We're a safer country because of your service, and I think we're a better country too. And as we say in the Navy, when people do especially good work, we say 2 words. One of them is bravo, and the other is Zulu. So, Michelle and John, bravo Zulu. God bless you.